Good health to you all. I'm here today at the studio. We're going to be having a great show. I'm really excited about it. One of the things that occurs all the time in my practice is that people wonder about the supplements they're taking. It's something that is a big issue. It's an issue that is on a lot of people's minds. They stand in the vitamin aisle, for example, and they just sit there and they say, I don't know anything about this stuff. I guess I'll just compare prices or something. And this is really, kind of not the appropriate thing to do with your nutrition is comparing prices, because you want the best quality you can get for the best money. No question about that. You definitely want value for the money you spend. Unfortunately, a lot of us out there are spending money for things that aren't valuable. In fact, things that actually gum the system up. And that's what we're going to be talking about this morning. So what I want you to do, I'll take a little break for announcements and things, but what I want you to do is I want you to go and get your vitamins and put them in front of you. This is something we do at the practice. I just say, put all your supplement bottles in a bag and bring them in. We'll take a look at them. And now we're going to take a look at them with your supplements. So put them in front of you, get them on a table, get everything there, and particularly the multiple vitamins and the mineral supplements, the fish oil supplements, etc. And we're going to talk about these kind of things just a little bit. Okay, so we're talking about supplements this morning. But first of all, I want to invite you to our weekly weight loss seminar. We have it on Tuesday evenings at 6:30. It's free. We're on 53rd Street in Moline. You go down 23rd Avenue or Avenue of the Cities, and if you're headed toward East Moline, you turn right. If you're headed toward Moline, you turn left, and on 53rd Street. And there we are in the first block. There, you look to your left off of 23rd Avenue, and there we are almost as soon as you go on to 53rd Street. So, find out where we are. Make sure that you can get there on Tuesday evening at 6:30. It's a wonderful time. We have a great time. And, come and meet the staff and find out what you can do about your health. Because when it comes right down to it, saying something I used to say a lot, in fact, when I was teaching at Black Hawk and when I was teaching at Palmer College, I would say this to students who would come in complaining about things. I just couldn't do it. And I'd say to them, well, life's not for everyone. Because life involves challenge, life involves getting things done, life involves budgeting your time, life involves putting yourself on a schedule, life involves working hard, life involves making sure that if you're a farmer, you've got to feed the animals, you've got to make sure you plow the fields, you've got to make sure you plant things, because that's what life is. That's what keeps life going, is making sure that you're doing the things that are appropriate to sustaining life. It's just a fact. It's the law of the farm. Okay, so life's not for everyone. Well, in terms of health's not for everyone either, it doesn't seem like, because it's so easy to go the easy way and not do what you need to do to sustain a healthy existence. And some people just, can't find the time or take the trouble to actually learn things about their health. They can't take the time or the trouble to break free from the chains of the media that basically tells us to eat exactly the wrong things and exactly do the wrong things for our health. And, break free of that and educate yourself and figure out how nature really works. If a farmer doesn't figure out how nature works, the animals die, the plants aren't harvested, etc. And it's the same thing with your body. You've got to take responsibility for your health, okay? Health's not for everyone. If you don't take responsibility, your chances of being healthy are really low. Okay, but a lot of people try to, make sure that they can get things going by making sure they cover their bases by taking supplements. And, it's probably a good idea, because our food supply these days is not as rich as it was even for our great-grandparents. Our great-grandparents had better nutrition by accident than we have on purpose. The foods that were harvested were not from depleted soils. They were good, solid, full-spectrum foods. They had the right kinds of bacteria right in the soil that produced the right nutrients for the plants. They had the right kind of bacteria in their own gut, because they didn't decimate their bacteria constantly with antibiotics, etc. There's something that happened just recently. A patient had a sinus infection, went to the doctor and had antibiotics for it because they said it was bacterial. Well, the fact that whether it was bacterial or not, it's very low likelihood that it's bacterial. On the other hand, sinus infections have not been proven to be very attackable with antibiotics. You read the research of bronchitis. Basically, there's no evidence that says bronchitis is something that you use antibiotics for, but it's recommended. You don't know anything about it. I mean, the doctor's supposed to know that stuff, right? But the recommendation, if there's nothing else to do, antibiotics is the solution for everything, it seems like. But anyway, so we need to educate ourselves on these kinds of issues, or find somebody who does know a little bit about how the body works. In any case, you've got your vitamins out there. Okay, so let's talk about them a little bit. This subject actually kind of came about very early on in terms of, do we need supplementation? And the way it arose is that there was a young lady who was actually subject to a gunshot wound, and most of her intestines were removed, and they wondered, well, how are we going to get her nutrition? And for months and months, until she healed up so she had some minimal digestive capacity, they gave her a parenteral nutrition. Namely, they mushed all the nutrition up into a mash. They tried to make it digested as much as they could before they gave it to her. And then she took this, and that's what she lived on for a while. But she started having all kinds of symptoms. She started having numbness in her feet and her hands, and she couldn't think. She was having all types of different symptoms. And they found out that they were supplementing with an oil that was really high in omega-6 and omega-9, but didn't have any omega-3 in it, a safflower oil. And because they were supplementing with that, she had a fat deficiency of a certain kind of healthy fat, essential fat, that she couldn't make herself, and that she was really starting to have problems. So they switched her to soy oil, in this case, soybean oil, and that has enough omega-3s in it that it brought the whole thing up and the symptoms went away. Well, that was a big lesson, because what they found was that even if they try to supplement with a vitamin supplement of some sort, or a food supplement of some sort, they really had a hard time covering all the bases. And this is what I want to start with today, because this insight that you have a difficult time covering all the bases with just food supplements is something that I want that you to internalize that. If you want health to be for you, you've got to not only take supplements, but you've got to eat good, healthy food. Now, supplementing is a good idea, because they're the major nutrients. You need to make sure you're covered there, but also eat good quality food. So let's look at your supplement bottles now. Pick them up and look at them. And what I want you to look for is, I want you to look for a supplement called beta carotene. It's usually under vitamin A. And I want you just to say a couple words about that, because there's more important ones. But the vitamin A is extremely important for eye health. It's the carotenoids that actually enable you to turn light into nerve impulses so you can see things. And but if it's beta carotene that you're getting there, it's probably something that you need to actually take oil with to transform that into the supplement, the actual vitamin A that has the effect on your system or on your eyes, because it's a oil-soluble supplement, and unless it is dissolved in oil, it just doesn't work that well. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, a lot of you people are eating a lot of these low-fat foods. You think, well, fat makes me fat. By the way, that's a misconception. Also, it's sugar plus fat that makes you fat, and just sugar by itself will also make you fat. So it's not the fat. If you eat the fat without sugar, it's very, very healthy. In any case, so you have to kind of eat normal food with your supplements in order to get the benefit of the supplements. And by normal, I mean not low fat in this case. Okay, and then there's also calcium supplementation. Now, calcium on your bottle, if you see calcium carbonate, which is the most common calcium supplement you can get, because frankly, it's the cheapest. Okay, and if you have calcium carbonate as the primary calcium supplement in your vitamins, you will notice that your vitamins are really, really heavy. And it makes a good deal of sense that they would be, because calcium carbonate is gravel. That white gravel, you put on driveways, that's calcium carbonate. Okay, so it's very, very heavy, very, very dense. It's also the calcium you find in Tums or Rolaids. Why? Because calcium carbonate neutralizes stomach acid. That's why it's put in those medications. Okay. Now, if you have calcium carbonate neutralizing your stomach acid, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's definitely calcium you're taking, but is it good to neutralize your stomach acid? Well, this is what happens if you neutralize stomach acid. You don't absorb minerals. So any magnesium you've taken or any other calcium you've taken in your food or zinc, copper, all these things that are essential minerals for your health. Now, these are not going to be absorbed properly because you've neutralized the stomach acid with calcium carbonate. So it's not a good supplement. It's not a good source of calcium. It is a source of calcium, so they can get away with putting on the bottle. But it's not a good source of calcium. It's not a healthy supplement to take, okay? So that's the calcium supplement. There's lots of other ones, calcium citrate, calcium orotate, lots of different other sorts of kinds of calcium that are much better than calcium carbonate. All right, now, by the way, what else does calcium carbonate do? When it neutralizes the stomach acid, you also don't acidify B vitamins and make them absorbable. You also don't actually digest your protein. So instead of having your protein broken down into amino acids, the little pieces of protein that then can be absorbed through the small intestine and be, brought into new proteins after they're absorbed, you can't do that. The amino acids are not there. Therefore, you have undigested proteins in your gut, which actually then putrefies and becomes low-level toxicity in your system. So calcium carbonate is not a good supplement. If your supplement contains that, I would advise you to, listen to the rest of the show first, but I would advise you to drop that in the trash and get something that actually is good, okay? Stop by the practice. We've got a package that is available for you, and we combine the fish oil, the vitamins, as well as some herbal supplements in the same package. It's a little cellophane package. You just tear it open and take it every morning, and you're good for the day. So that's vitamin A, calcium. Now, what about some other ones? Well, folic acid is a big one. In fact, several years ago, there was a concern for a condition in pregnancy where the fetus develops what's called neurotube defect. And then when they are born, they have a condition called either spina bifida or spina bifida occulta. Now, the occulta form is far more common, and I see it in the practice quite a bit. You put the x-ray, and you notice that part of the sacrum is gone. Part of the tailbone is not quite fused together. And sometimes the lower lumbar vertebra are not fused totally together. Some people have a spondylolisthesis, where their vertebra has shifted forward because of a lack of ossification or bone formation in the back, the retaining bones that keep the spine from slipping forward. And so there's lots of different conditions that come from this, and that was attributed to low folate in the developing child, okay? So low folate is a problem, no question about it. So a few years ago, I think maybe 30 or 40 years ago, they said that any kind of bread products and most prepared foods, the foods that you get in the inside of the store, have to contain folic acid. And folic acid, by the way, was a interesting solution because folic acid is cheap, it's synthetic, it can be produced like crazy, it's no problem, it's not going to raise the cost of food much, etc. And it's going to be something that, will help this condition, supposedly, all right? So now, the question is, though, is it actually doing those things? Well, the fact is that about half of the neurotube defects were dealt with. People, a lot fewer children had the neurotube defects and had the spina bifida problem. So fantastic. That is absolutely incredible. However, other problems came about with other people. And so some people had the benefit and other people had no benefit, and they may have even had things that didn't work quite as well. So when you look at your vitamin supplement, it says folic acid. After a real quick break here, I'm going to actually tell you why that was not a good solution. Okay, folic acid was added to prenatal vitamins and added to the whole food supply pretty much as a solution to neurotube defect in fetuses. And it had a positive effect. But only about half of the people that actually were taking the folic acid had the positive effect. And this is kind of interesting because what you do when you get into the folate metabolism is you realize that folic acid does absolutely nothing in the body. It actually has to be transformed or refined into a different form of folate before it has any biological effect. And only about a third of the population has the capacity to fully transform folic acid into its active form. Its active form is called 5-methyltetrahydrofolate, or 5-MTHF. We're just going to say methylfolate here, okay, just to kind of abbreviate a little bit. So you have to change folic acid into methylfolate before it has any biological effect other than detrimental. Okay, so about a third of the population does it really well. About a third does it relatively well, can take most of it and transform it into the methylfolate. But a third has a horrible time transforming folic acid into methylfolate. And the problem is this, the big problem is, and this is Ben Lynch, if you want to look him up on the internet, he's got some great videos, but Ben Lynch, who's a geneticist, and he points this fact out, that two things about folic acid are, one of them is wonderful, one of them is really rotten, and that is this. Folic acid is more easily absorbed than the natural form that is found in plants, namely methylfolate. It's more easily absorbed, but number two, it actually binds to the folate receptors more robustly also. Okay, so when you take folic acid, that comes into the system more easily and just kind of floods the system. Now you're also maybe eating some lettuce and some greens and some broccoli and some spinach, etc., which are just rife with methylfolate, not folic acid, but methylfolate, the natural form that the body does use. And you bring that in, but all of the binding sites, okay, this is the second part. This is the bad part of folic acid. It binds more easily to folate binding sites also, but it does nothing. It just gums up the works. So if you don't transform folic acid to methylfolate, the methylfolate that you eat in the natural plant environment that would actually interact positively and give you the biological effect that methylfolate is supposed to give you, the folic acid's already there on the binding site, and therefore those binding sites are not available to the 5-methyltetrahydrofolate, or the methylfolate. As a result, you actually suffer from a folate deficiency because you're taking folic acid. Now, that's confusing, it's discouraging, it's, why am I doing this? Well, the question is, why are you doing it? Yes, when you look at your supplements and it says folic acid, or when you look at your bread and it says folic acid, and you look at your crackers and you look at this food and that food. I was even looking for some nutritional rice, some nutritional yeast a while ago, and because I wanted the B vitamins there, I wanted to avoid some cheese a little bit, and I wanted to substitute some of that. And the problem was that everything had folic acid in it. I finally, at Greatest Grains, found some bulk nutritional rice that did not have folic acid in it. And of course, I was overjoyed. So, go there if you want nutritional rice, go to Greatest Grains in the bulk bins and read the ingredients, no folic acid. You can buy it in bulk without the folic acid. So, but the point is this, you don't want to gum up your folate receptors and not have the benefits, because folate is one of the most important nutrients you can get for versatility in your genetics. You can't change your genetic expression without folate in your system, without the proper form of methylfolate in your system. And we can go into that on a different show. Okay, the last one, cobalamin. Cobalamin is vitamin B12, and there are several different forms. If you look on your supplement bottle and it says cyanocobalamin, then you're not getting the benefits of B12 from your supplement. If you get vitamin B12 injections and it's cyanocobalamin, by the way, it's going to look great on your blood test, just like folate, just like folic acid. You're going to have all kinds of it in your blood, but it's not going to be biologically active. If you do cyanocobalamin or vitamin B12 of that sort, you're going to have all kinds of B12 in your blood, but you're not going to have anything that's bioactive. It's very difficult to convert that into the proper form, which is either methylcobalamin, methyl again, or adenosylcobalamin, which is used by the muscles. But methylcobalamin is the main thing that you need to have actually active vitamin B12. So, make sure you're looking at this stuff. Another form, by the way, hydroxycobalamin, is a great storage form of vitamin B12 that can easily be converted to methylcobalamin if you have the right kind of folic acid that you're taking in your supplements or eating in your food. So, yeah. So if your supplements basically are the things that we're talking about, they've got the wrong form of calcium, they've got the wrong form of folate, they've got the wrong form of B12. They can, by the way, also have a wrong form of B6. They can have a weak vitamin D. They can have the vitamin D2 instead of vitamin D3. They can be missing things like K27. They can be all these different vitamins. It's very important. If you're spending money on a supplement, you want it to be the best supplement possible. Otherwise, you're wasting your money. Not only are you wasting your money if you're doing folic acid in your supplement, you're blocking vitamins that are essential to your health. You're blocking one of the most essential vitamins you can get. That's methylfolate. So it's very, very important to make sure that the supplements you buy are not just the cheap ones. Again, at the practice, you can stop in and pick up the boxed vitamins we've got. They're actually as cheap as the ones you get in the store that are kind of like interfering with your health. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.